till shade is gone,
till water is gone,
into the shadow with teeth bared,
screaming defiance with the last breath,
to spit in Sightblinder's eye on the last day.
by my honor and the light.
My life will be a dagger for Sightblinder's heart.
Until the last day. To Shyle Ghul itself.
This is A Dagger for Sightblinder, a podcast focused on all things Wheel of Time, with your hosts,
Sarah Lucas
and Adam Tricola.
Did you hit record?
I did.
Oh man!
I promise you, I'm not editing this out. So,
well then, welcome to A Dagger for Sightblinder. May you always find shade. Adam, thank you for making me laugh before we even started. This was so rude.
I know. People are always like, Adam, stop making me laugh. That's rude.
So
very common reaction.
It is.
Here's the thing. I wanted to hit the button because I wanted to be able to prove to the world that I can actually be funny at times. It's a new wrinkle, you might say.
I see. Okay. Well, you've proven it, or everyone's just gonna think that I'm a really good pity laugher.
Well, no? Now I'm sad.
Sorry. That was rude.
It was, but I didn't say it. See, that's the difference between us. I can make people feel like they're being rude without saying that they're rude.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to say the difference between us is I'm able to objectively look at myself and criticize and grow, and you don't.
No, that's what you think of me, so I don't need to say that either.
Probably should explain why we're here for the second time this week. Bonus episode. Because we watched the first 3 episodes because the show's out.
I know. I even made a play on one of my jokes already today on this episode was about something that happened in episode 3, actually.
On this episode or before?
Yeah, just now. I said, I was told you about how it was funny. And then I said, that's a new wrinkle.
Yes, that's right.
Nailed it. So, man, I thought it was super interesting. There are so many differences.
I have thoughts.
So very many differences. And so I want to hear your thoughts. One thing I do want to just point out before we do anything. Right now, as of right this moment, as of the recording, Wheel of Time is only at 3 stars on Amazon. I don't know what the total, like if it's like 3.9 or something, but it's only 3 stars with less than 100 ratings, but still less than. What's that?
I was gonna say it's been out for less than 7 hours as of right now.
Right, and so you have to think. The reason I'm pointing this out now is you have to think that the people who are most likely to be watching it right now, like there's probably a couple like just random, sure, I'll, I heard this is cool, I'll turn it on, I have time. Most of the people are going to be like, I need to watch this because I read the books.
Right.
And the people who are already super fans, and I think that's going to color my interpretation and discussion of this. Not that I'm necessarily negative about it, but I do think that there's going to be a certain amount of like me saying like, well, this didn't happen in the book this way, like that. I mean, there was like a million times like that, and I think that I could have potentially felt very negative about some of those things.
Okay, which I mean is fair. I've actually been waiting for hours to pick your brain about this because I immediately started having thoughts, and I was like, oh, if I'm having these thoughts, like I want to know what Adam's thinking.
I'm really curious to see how you're going to take it, because there's some things that you haven't even seen yet, actually, or like for instance, Okay, before we even get further, guys, there is going to be spoilers for this show, like for episodes 1 through 3. But
Yep.
then I don't know if we can really avoid comparisons for the rest of at least Eye of the World, like the first book
Right.
as well. So I won't spoil things that are just randomly in, like the very end of the book 1 isn't really
Mhm.
touched by this, but
Mhm.
there are also a few things from book 2, like just small details that we may also discuss.
Right.
So be warned, like after this, like we're basically, everything quote unquote is free reign. I just don't, there's, we won't spoil that much, but we have to talk about the book if, and at least I do, to be able
Yeah.
to explain how I feel about the show.
Yeah. I'm prepared to just go all out. I feel like I'm gonna get spoiled about other things too, so that's
Yeah,
fine.
well, and I won't spoil too much, but
No, but I have all these questions.
yeah. Oh yeah, good. So
Yeah.
and then let's do for at the end of each episode, let's talk
Mhm.
about who the most annoying character we think is.
I was not thinking about that when I was watching it.
I know. So you have to be like honest. You have to actually give on an honest answer for once.
Okay, so let's try and not jump around episodes and go like episode by episode.
Yeah, I think that that's going to be the best course of action.
Okay, so can I start?
Yeah, so don't cover like
Episode.
don't start the whole, like don't go through the whole thing. Like give me a
No,
chance
no.
to talk, please.
You just talked. It's my turn.
It's my turn. I'm in command. Sorry. I went all Star Wars on you. I apologize, Captain Phasma.
No, it's fine. It's fine. No one should be surprised. Okay. I was really hoping they would show the prologue from Eye of the World. I'm not surprised that they didn't, but I was really hoping they would. And I understand why they didn't. I feel like starting it with Moraine and Lan like that, the way they started it was really cool in general to open the episode, but it gave me the vibe that the story is about Moraine. Like that's the vibe that it instantly gave me, was this is Moraine's story and this is why she's doing this. And I think it was done with the intention of her being the like knowledge source, basically, so that if you are a viewer who's never read the books, you can have her kind of explain the backstory and what's going on and why this is important. But I really wanted to see the prologue.
Oh man. So I didn't care about the prologue. I thought
I
that
know.
would be needlessly confusing. But
I know.
I get that. I my guess is that they're going to show it eventually. I bet that they'll show it later
Yeah.
in the show.
I think
Maybe
they
not
will
even
too.
this season, but at some point they might. As they talk, I thought so. So here's something really interesting. They actually changed the verbiage. So you know how we were talking a couple episodes ago about how she was saying we don't know if the Dragon Reborn will be a man or a woman.
Yeah.
Or whatever. And there was a lot of fan outrage about that. And a lot of people worried, like I was concerned. And so they actually changed her dialogue or her monologue, whatever, at the start. And they did say, we don't know if the Dragon Reborn will be, like it was a man. We don't know if they'll be reborn as a man or a woman. But so they kept the same narrative, but they kind of smoothed it out quite a bit more than the initial, like we just don't know, we're ignorant fools who haven't read the books, like they made sure that we knew, like, okay, this is where we're coming from. But I don't know, it did strike me a little bit as like they kept calling the Dragon Reborn them, and whereas I don't,
It's a he.
well, I think, I mean, if they go against what the book is, like if they go against that story, if they just like decide that someone else is the Dragon Reborn that isn't a he, like I won't say that they'll lose me as a fan, but I will struggle hard not to just be the most pissed off ever.
Right.
So,
well then, let's hope they don't do that.
Yeah, I don't want to be the most pissed off ever.
I don't think they will, based off other factors that we were shown. That I'm not going to jump around, but I don't think they will.
but I did think it was interesting. Yeah, and then so it shows them setting off,
Mhm.
and then it immediately shows two people
Mhm.
running away from the Red Aja.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
that was the start of one of the first one, right?
Yes.
Oh yeah, it is because then it shows Moraine
Yes.
and Land deciding where they're going to go. But
Yes.
so so yeah, go ahead, talk.
I had no idea what was going on with the red. Like I knew that's what it was, but I was like, what are they showing here? Um, I was just ignorant to it. And then I was like, all right, cool. Like I guess they're just at first, like when and we later find out obviously what happened, but I thought they were gentling him just like out in the road.
I think that's what I took from it.
Okay, cool. Because I was like, I like at the point that I am in the series, it's only been a term that's been thrown around. It hasn't actually been like fully explained. So I was like, I guess this is how it works. Like, cool. And it was just jarring to watch.
So from like I mean, this isn't a spoiler really. Like one person could technically, as long as the other person is like shielded from the source, you can you only need one person to gentle someone. Like traditionally, I think that Aes Sedai have traditionally used like a full circle of 13, which I guess you don't know about circles and stuff, which
No.
again is not really a secret, but like you can Aes Sedai can link together to be more powerful
Right.
as a group together. So so it's not, but it's only one of like they can get up to 13 people, and only one of them can use the power at that time, and the rest are used like it's kind of like miniature batteries. So they're just like they can feel the power being channeled through them, but they can't actually control the source. So it's one person channeling, but they channel the power from 13 different people, and no, so they can do that to gentle someone. I think that's traditionally what they do, but as you'll find in the books at different points, gentling or stilling can happen when with just one person.
Okay.
So and the
Okay.
Red Alja are kind of just total dicks, really. Like they're all, if there's only a Red Aja, wasn't surprising that they're like, you know what, let's just do this now.
Okay, because I totally got that vibe like from them, especially when she was talking about like how, you can't, it's not for you, it's for women, like you can't have this. And I was like, well, like they did have it and I get why they can't have it, but like they did kind of have it before, and it was just very aggressive. Like I didn't like her.
Well, and that's Leandrin.
Did not like her.
Which and so in the books, Red sisters are, I think there's maybe one Red sister that I like in the whole series.
Okay, so my reaction is spot on, basically, which I guess makes it's kind of good that they were able to convey that through the show.
Oh yeah, that
right?
they're a lot of them are so. Okay, so Wheel of Time is problematic in some senses. Like a huge part of Wheel of Time is like the battle of the sexes, kind of like men versus women and their differences, and a lot of them are overemphasized or caricatured to the extreme. And so the Red sisters are all kind of just man haters in this series. Like they're just like, oh, we don't need men, they're filthy, disgusting, awful people. And that's and the Red Aja is their whole goal is to find men who can channel and take care of them, gentle them if they have to kill them, whatever. That's the start and finish of what they do. And so that, like, I guess the man haters who become Aes Sedai would naturally gravitate toward the ones that hunt down men only,
right?
Like toward the group. So that they're kind of just pushed that direction, the people who are predisposed to dislike men for whatever reason. And some of them have great really valid like reasons for it, frankly. Like there are certain times that he hints at what's been done to some of the Red sisters, and it's like, oh, I don't think you should have acted that way, but I guess I can understand why you have that disposition.
Right.
So,
Well, did not
anyways,
enjoy. Then if I remember correctly, then we're with Nynaeve and Egwene after this, right? At the top of the cliff.
yeah. One last thing I wanted to touch on, actually.
Yeah.
Because this, I don't think I can go through this whole thing with like a fine-tooth comb, honestly, but this still kind of just really bugs me. So no one knows. So the idea of Taviran, and Taviran is like this kind of unknown scholarly term, honestly, of like, oh yeah, these people who the wheel weaves around and, you know, like impacts things in a bigger way. And like Taviran are incredibly rare. Like there just are very, very few Taviran. And so in Emond's Field, the fact that there are 3 Taviran in Emond's Field is amazing. So and they didn't have any idea that that's what they were. Like they had to have it explained in a lot of different ways, and they still didn't accept it because it just seems so nebulous. And because like how there's no way to quantify it. So the fact that Moraine said to Lan, I heard a rumor of 4 Taviran in the 2 rivers. Like, that makes no sense to me whatsoever. Like,
right.
I can't understand how you could hear a rumor of 4 Taviran. It doesn't make sense to me. So whatever. We can move on from that. That set things up for me of like, I don't know. It was just really,
it just left this like weird, almost like a weird taste in your mouth.
Yeah, like I was like, that's wrong. Like I don't know why they would even choose to say that. Kind of like it makes no sense if you've read the books. To me, it makes no sense. But you know, I just didn't like also that it was at the very, very start. So that's why I wanted to point it out, was because it was way more impactful than if they just randomly thrown it in like during episode 3 or 4 or something. I'd have been like, oh well, they've been getting some things wrong. They can get that one wrong too. This one was just like, what else are they gonna get wrong, kind of thing. And yeah. I actually think that a lot of the things that they did made a lot more sense. I actually, that was like my only moment of pure cringe, honestly, of just like, what are they gonna do next? Like, this is, I hope they don't kill this thing. I really hope, you know.
Yeah.
But the fact that it was at the start makes it more impactful.
Yeah, because you're now going in with that disposition.
Right. Of like, what else? Like, instead of, oh, what else are they going to make cool? Like, what else are they going to ruin or get wrong? You know, now I have to be careful. Like, now I can't just trust them. I just have to watch. I have to pay attention really close. But I was going to do that anyways, because that's who I am. So anyways, we can move on. I know I've been dominating the conversation, and I really want to hear what you have to say about things.
Okay, so like the next scene, the only reason I'm bringing it up is because I was like, what is the point? Like, what is this ceremony that we are clearly watching? Is this like when you're allowed to braid your hair? Like, is this like the thing that we're seeing? It's just a random.
So this is less cringe than the Taviran thing, but this was a little confused. So there's two very distinct things in the books about, so the women's circle, which is like there's the men's, I forget what they call it, like whatever their town hall council group is, you know, like the mayor and like his advisors, basically.
Right.
You know, but there's the women's version of that called the women's circle. And then the women's circle decide when a girl is allowed to braid their hair. That means they're marriageable age.
Right.
And this kind of combined, like, so they said, you're now part of the women's circle. And I'm like, okay, like,
yeah, that's why I was like, what is this?
Well, and there was a ton of them there. Like, is the women's circle? So my guess is that they just kind of decided that the women's circle and being a woman was just, the ceremony to being, marriageable age, being able to braid your hair. I feel like they just blended the two together.
Okay. Yeah. Cause I was like, all right, I guess this is some kind of thing.
But and then they're like, but you might die.
Right? I was like, this seems like really aggressive. Like,
Well, look,
especially if you've read the books and you're
mhm,
aware of the fact that Egwene is not a strong swimmer. Like Perrin even
right.
says that about her.
Hmm.
And then they're like, yeah, we're just gonna push you into this like rushing river.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Hope you don't hit your head.
Right?
Like you're falling and you can't control your descent and you just hit your head and die. Like it, it made, I'm like, okay, so maybe, so it made me think, oh, well, maybe she is being initiated into the actual women's circle. And then they
Mhm.
only let their strongest people in
Right.
or something. They're like, well, if they die, then they were weak. And I mean, it's still a super brutal way to do things.
Right.
Like a village like that doesn't just have enough random, casual, awful deaths as it is. Like
Right.
you have to get like the young childbearing age women like potentially at risk as well.
Right. Like I
Oh,
don't
she
want to
couldn't.
I don't want to compare it to this, but it's like when you burn a witch at the stake and it's like, well, if she's a witch, she won't burn.
Oh, look at
Well,
that. Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, so okay. The actual thing that bugged me, and this I didn't think this was gonna bug me as much as it did. The actual thing that bugged me was Rand and Egwene's interactions when you first see them interact together. Like it bothered me.
Interesting. Well, yeah. So she survives, and you're like, okay, well
Mhm.
that seemed a little brutal. For they're like, hey, welcome, like screw you,
Yeah.
like over the edge with you, and then they go to the town. Is that right? Oh, it shows
Yeah.
Rand with Tam next or
Right.
something, right?
Yeah, they're walking into town, I think, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, and Rand thinks he sees something, and it's kind of just a little nod to,
Mhm.
maybe saw Myrtle, maybe he didn't, but
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, because then they're at the inn, I think, when they
mhm.
first interact together. Um, and I did not enjoy it. I was like, okay, whatever. They're gonna make them more like into each other or something else. It was weird.
I didn't. My wife thought so too, actually.
Like I did not like it, and I think the reason why I didn't enjoy it will make more sense when we get to the next episode. But I just I didn't like it. It just felt so wrong for them to be nice to each other.
See, I liked. I told my wife, like, the whole time I was like, man, this feels like an actual relationship,
Yes.
way more than the madness that happens in the books, where I'm just like, what are you guys doing? Like,
Right.
it
Totally.
it feels incredibly unnatural in the books, and this time I was like, oh, like, okay, so they're both older than in the books, and that's
Mhm.
fine. They have a physical relationship, and they don't know exactly how they feel about each other, what their future is going to look like, and so when compared to the books, yes, very, very different. But
Yeah.
in my opinion, I liked it. It felt like an actual, oh, hey, like they care about each other on some level, at least.
Right. Which like I did get that.
Mhm.
I'm not saying I didn't feel that. I just didn't like it.
Fair.
So,
Oh, that's
um
fair.
yeah.
No, you don't have to like it, or what, like. It's interesting though, because my wife did. She was just like, "Oh, this is so different," and she hasn't read the books for a good long while. But
Mhm.
there's some things you just remember, and so yeah, I'm
Yeah. Did not enjoy. Um
it's fair.
and then we
Hmm.
like casually find out that Perrin's married.
Oh my gosh, that
What? Just
I
what? This I did not like.
I hated that.
And
I loathed that. In fact, I thought that was the dumbest thing.
I was like, this doesn't I understand what they're doing. They're eliminating characters. So instead of him being the blacksmith's apprentice, he is the blacksmith. Like they've eliminated that.
And honestly, like the way the books go, it almost makes sense that he would be a blacksmith. Like you'll see in book
Right.
3, I believe that actually becomes the thing, that like that you actually understand. But yeah, like
I just feel like it took away from his character, because in the books he clearly
mhm,
has this internal dialogue where he's talking about how he doesn't know about girls and he needs to talk to Rand because Rand knows about girls, and like he's having this whole
mhm.
thing, and I'm like, that just completely takes away from your character now. Like in my eyes, I'm like, this is not, no, why? Why was this necessary?
Yeah, I was so weirded out by that. I don't know. But then you have to think, and I don't know the answer to this at all, but you have to think maybe it's more interesting for the people who have just jumped into the show and haven't read the books of
Maybe.
like the three friends all have like they're all of like marriageable age, and they're
Hmm.
all doing different things. So like one of them could have married young. Like I had a friend who married way too young
Hmm.
in real life, and we all, and then he ended up with a failed marriage pretty soon after, and we all just, I don't know, we didn't, no one made fun of him or anything, but it was like a thing, it was like, oh,
Right.
like he's our group's guy, he's our version of that. And the rest of us didn't get married, but each of us each has our own little thing that's going on.
Hmm.
And I don't know, like it makes sense that he's the blacksmith, he's got a solid trade. Why wouldn't he marry someone and start a life?
Right.
The other two aren't established yet the way he is.
Right. Which I guess I get, but I still don't like it.
No, I hate it, but
But
yeah, but
I,
it seemed like they were like, hey, you've read the books, screw you.
mhm. It
Like
was anyway.
you don't know how close they came to saying the F word there.
Censoring yourself. I like it.
Yeah, it was really hard, which is what she said. But
But I did like Matt's character here. I thought Matt was in character.
uh,
He
mhm.
he gave me all of like the friendly, jokery, like happy-go-lucky vibes that he's been giving me from
Oh
the
man,
get-go.
let me just say, I liked him more in this show than I liked him in the book, and
Mm.
I really enjoy Matt in later parts of the story, but I don't necessarily. I always try to like him during these rereads. I like to like him, or I try to like him in the first few books, and
Mhm.
I'm like, he's just kind of a whiny little a hole.
Right.
Like I don't like him. I thought he was great. I'm very conflicted though. His dad.
Right. Yeah.
So you don't know once you get to a later book, his
Mhm.
dad, like I'm trying to think. Okay, so I'm not going to spoil things. Like, so Matt always looks to his dad as an example of like what he wants to be, kind of.
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
his dad is the best at this, his dad is the best at that. And his dad ends up being a really stand-up, solid guy that
Mhm.
you get, and then to find out he's just like being unfaithful to his wife, like very clearly just a total douchebag.
Mhm.
And his
Yeah.
wife and Matt's mom is a probably like she just looks wasted away like an alcoholic or something. And
Yeah. Is I mean, I was
that
like,
that part to me, I'm like, don't do this to Abel Cawthon, don't, like
mhm.
his dad. I was, but they have to do different things. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Keep telling me more about Matt, what you think. I have very strong feelings about this character, so I want to hear what you have to say.
I just enjoyed it. Like I thought it was great. I thought it was really good contrast. Like I immediately, like seeing him in there, I immediately was like, yes, that this is Matt. Like this is
Hmm.
how I want to see him portrayed. Fabulous.
Well, it's really cool once he gets a point of view.
Hmm.
Like he goes to great lengths to show people how callous he is, and while at the same time he's like super kind-hearted and just like has these tendencies of like really of true altruism.
Right.
And you see that here of like he clearly stole something from a woman.
Yep.
Which is like, oh my gosh, like you're a thief, like what? And then it's to get things for his sisters to take care of them.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I mean, if I was in that situation, I'd steal something to keep help, for my kids or to raise, for my sisters or whatever. Like, yeah, like he was very mad, and he's really funny too. I'm very sad now that we have a different actor for him in
season two. Yeah, it's gonna be weird.
Yeah, he was the bright spot in basically every interaction. I truly enjoyed his stuff, his shenanigans.
Yeah, it was really well done. So,
which I'm surprised because that I liked him so much, because I don't. Okay, I can't spoil that much. I just can't. It's a reference to later things, and it'll come up at some point, but I just can't do it. Suffice to say, I can be a pretty harsh critic on certain aspects of Matt. Gosh, that doesn't make any sense right now, but
it will.
Maybe once I explain it in like 5 years, but once we get to that point in the storytelling. But I really liked him, and Rand throughout, it seemed very consistent with the books, actually.
Yeah, he did too. I actually, like, now that I think about it, which kind of makes sense to the books too, he seemed pretty bland in comparison to the other characters.
Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, it's funny because you're rooting for him in the books because he's the point of view character.
Yeah, exactly.
But and this is something that my wife brought up too with Perrin is a really cool character in the books, because you can see in his head, in the like you can hear what he's thinking and how his approach is. It loses something if you're just watching him stare at things and not talk.
Yeah, you're just seeing him have his internal monologue and have no thought on what his internal monologue is.
Right. And I feel like that's the same for Rand here. Like, so I guess we don't want to get too far. So one thing though, I loved that he confronted Moraine and he was like, hey, like, I don't trust you, kind of thing. I guess that is in the next, that's the second episode, so we can rewind a little bit. But so Moraine's like poking around town, she makes her big entrance and poking around town, trying to figure out when people are born,
right? Because she's looking for the right age. I still enjoyed her arrival into town, like, even though we already saw it in the teaser, like, I still enjoyed it.
I liked her performance in the whole what she did was really cool. She's grown on me consistently. I think she was, I thought it was very interesting too. Like, one of the first times we see the power being used was just to heat their bathwater.
Right.
And
she's just like moving it around, like, okay.
Yeah, we got to see Lan's butt. It's just fun.
Yeah.
For some people, I'm sure. So
just randomly.
Randomly.
Wasn't
Rand. Wasn't Rand's butt.
No. Oh dear. Okay. So then, like, let's get into this. Now we're actually going to get into like the actual heart, I think, of everything that happens.
Yeah, in the first episode, you mean?
Yeah. Yep. With Winter Night, because basically the first episode is Winter Night.
It was, which it surprised me that they spent an entire episode on that, but
me too.
I wasn't disappointed. It really set up the characters well, I felt like.
So the first thing I'll say is I literally jumped when, I can't even remember, like the guy's name now who dies in front of Egwene.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I forget.
gone.
Tom
Tom?
or something.
It's gone. Jumped. Like goes like, okay, it's here. They're here.
Mhm.
That is not how I envision Trollocs. They look like Wookiees with bull heads. That's like okay.
Mhm.
So
I'm
the way
listening.
I envision them, and this can be completely wrong, but whatever, is kind of like a goat's hind legs. Like
Mhm.
I envision skinny like skinnier legs and hooves.
Mhm.
Like really, really tall. Man's torso with like a I don't want to say a bull's head, but it's kind of like a bull's head, kind of similar to the heads that they did have, I guess, basically.
Well, they're all
But
supposed to be different. Like they're supposed to be birds and
I
cows and
just,
horses and like all the different animals' heads.
they just looked like literally the first thought I had when I saw them was that looks like a scary Chewbacca.
They do kind of look like Wookiees. You're right. I actually thought that they did a decent job. I like that they sometimes went on all fours
I
too.
think they did a decent job of it. It's just not how I envisioned it, which
That's
is
the danger of
fine.
reading the books. You're
I
like,
know.
really? Oh man, I literally. By the way, just to rewind a tiny bit, I really
Mm-hmm.
like Pat and Fane. The small amount that we saw him,
Mm-hmm.
like, and he's like driving up in his little cart, and all the little kids are like, blah blah blah. I was like, oh, it's Gandalf. Oh no, it's Pat and Fane. Oh, oh, hello.
Very, very briefly.
But he seemed very
Oh,
likable, like very
yeah.
genial, and like, oh, he's a cool guy. Not as stuffy as they kind of show in the book, which I thought it was a cool change to his character, the small
Mm-hmm.
amount we saw of him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So then
So
then
so
then we've got Trollocs murdering everyone.
would you put a thumbs up or thumbs down to the way Trollocs looked? Like overall, no fault if you feel negative about it. I'm just curious, like what it sounds like you would prefer that they look a little different at least.
I would
Like
prefer it, but
like
I
do
don't like. I
you
don't think they're bad.
okay.
Can I do like a sideways thumb? Like I'm neutral on it.
Like
I'm not
keeping everyone
mad about
hanging.
it. I don't think it was perfect.
That's fair. I think everything's going to be just a little bit disappointing to some on some level, right?
Right.
I mean, that's just how this kind of thing works. If you read the books, you have
Right.
to compare it to the books. You have to, and sometimes it's going to come up short in what
Right.
your expectations or preferences are.
Totally. So that's fine. But
I was
the
shocked at how hard they were to kill. Oh, I'm sorry, you were saying.
yeah. Oh no, I was just gonna say like the whole like winter night unfolding. So
Mm-hmm.
go on.
So first off, it's like the Trollocs just send one Trolloc to fight
Right.
Rand. Like they're just like, oh, that's just like some random farm. Like we'll just send one.
Yeah.
And
We
and
don't need one.
Tam, who's like, hey, I have a heron marked blade. I am a blade master. I clearly know what Trollocs are. No one else here knows, but I know. And then he fights the Trolloc and just like can't even beat one on his own. I was very disappointed. Like a weapon master is presented in the books at least as like he could if there's five Trollocs coming at him, as long as he positioned himself wisely and stuff, like he'll kill five
Right.
without really breaking a sweat kind of thing. And like this one would have just killed him straight up one-on-one if Rand hadn't intervened as
Hadn't
well.
shown up.
What that was disappointing to me because
Right.
Tam is a blade master and
Right.
he should have killed that Trolloc. But
Right.
like no, in the books, he just kills a Trolloc straight up, like right off the bat. Rand like throws a kettle at him, and then
Mhm.
Tam's like, "Run, boy!" and he's holding off all like a whole group of Trollocs at the door. And this time, Tam's like, "There's only one, but I guess I'll die."
It was. I actually was concerned that they were going to kill him.
Me too. I thought that for a little bit, I was like, "Whoa, they're gonna just."
Yeah.
And his fatalistic attitude, he's like, you should get out of here. I'm dead or whatever. And Rand's
Right.
like,
I was like, let's not.
yeah, and Rand too was like, I guess we'll just go to the village, dude. Like,
Right.
yeah. So Rand's winter night was actually far less eventful than like the apocalyptic
Right.
thing that
Total
happened.
carnage. Like,
Way different than the books. Like the books were like, oh, they showed up and Lan and Moraine like mostly just killed them off and scared them off before anything could happen.
right. And that was not the case here.
No, it was like an extended battle scene. And there was some really cool scenes in that, actually.
Yeah, it was way more aggressive than I thought it was going to be.
Me
Which
too.
I get that, like, they're doing it for the shock factor and the TV, and you're hooking your viewers and all this kind of stuff. But yeah, that was a lot.
It almost didn't feel real on some levels. Like you see the main events that are happening in the middle, and it's like a few villagers are kind of struggling against Trollocs, but for the most part, everyone's just hiding. But then the
Right.
Trollocs are still somehow distracted by what's going on in the middle.
Right.
What I did like about it though was you start seeing the two rivers. Like at first they're shocked, of course they should run away. And then I did like them, like that you could see their stubborn streak, their Manetherin spirit of like,
yeah,
we don't know what these creatures are, but we're not going to take crap from them. Like,
right.
We're just going to go at them. And they did. And it, like, to varying degrees of success, but that was cool to me.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. And I'm glad that you brought up that it was way more extreme than Rand's actual winter night, because I was even thinking that when after I watched the first episode, I was like, oh, like that. I found that I don't want to say I cared about it more, but I found that I was like invested in it more. And I think it was because of that. So
it's fair. I thought it was cool. Like Lan and Moraine, and they're like working together. Like so you see one blade master, you see Tam Althor just get wrecked by a Trolloc.
Yeah,
and then you see Lan laying waste, like the thing that I was telling you about how a blade master should be. That's what Lan is. He's just all over the place, just slaying Trollocs, doing all this awesome acrobatic stuff. It's so cool.
So I noticed that, like, Lan, I was like, awesome, great. And then what ended up happening for me was as soon as Moraine got out there and she started like channeling her power and like, you know, moving the ground around and flinging rocks around and stuff. As soon as I like saw her start doing it, I don't know what happened. I just started crying.
Oh, that's awesome.
I just started crying. I was like, what is wrong with me? Why am I crying?
No, she was super badass. I loved it.
I was, I'm like, not like sobbing, but like I was tearing up. It was great. I love the visualization of her channeling, like how they channel their power. I love that.
Yeah,
I think it looks great.
Yeah, people were concerned that it was going to look worse if there weren't, because the channeling takes all sorts of different elements, you know, like fire, water, earth, all this stuff. And so they're like, why isn't there brown and blue and red and all? And I'm like, I was willing to wait. And frankly, I personally very satisfied with how it looked.
Yeah, I thought it looked great. Made total sense.
Yeah, I thought it was cool. One thing that it kind of struck me, like this is different a little bit than in the books, at least it made me think a little bit of like D&D, where some spells take a long time to cast.
Right.
And so your tank or whoever have to keep the mobs off of them while they're casting their spells. And that totally felt like Lan was just all over the place, just slaying Trollocs off of her so that she could just cast her big like lightning spell and kill all the Trollocs. You know, he's there for the small, you know, one-on-one interactions, and she's there for the bigger picture to just wreck noobs.
Right, exactly.
She's
No.
the DPS.
It was so well done. Um,
She roasted a tree in the middle. I was like, I'm okay with this.
like, this is fine. Everything's good.
Yep, I didn't need that tree. In
Um,
fact, I didn't need the Wine Spring Inn either, apparently.
no,
No one did after that.
no, everything's gone.
Yeah, she's like, I'll just use this to kill all the Trollocs.
Yeah. So it was, I loved how they handled that. It was great. And then there's more Trollocs with Perrin and his wife.
Man, the second I found out he had a wife, I was like, okay, so that's weird that he's married, and that she actually, but she'll die from Trollocs in Winter Night anyway, so it's okay.
I thought that too. I was like, well, she's gonna die.
I said it out loud, like the first time we actually saw her, I was like, oh, like he loves her. She actually, like, he's invested. That's going to be something that makes him feel deeper somehow.
Yeah,
that they're trying for. And I what I didn't see was, and people who haven't seen the show, like earmuffs.
Spoiler.
But if you've listened this far, like, stop, like, screw you. Like, if you don't want spoilers, like this, you had this coming. But I didn't see him chopping her. That was a shock to me.
I thought that like when he was killing that Trolloc, that he was gonna look over and see the other Trolloc was like doing the finishing blow on her kind of thing.
I thought so too.
That's 100% what I expected. And then as soon as I saw that, I get so full disclosure. I watched this at work for people who don't know. So I was sitting at my desk watching this and gasped so loudly at work. I was like, ah! Like,
you're like,
I didn't like you, and I don't like that you were here, but holy F. What? Yeah. I think I actually did swear at my desk, but yeah. Yeah. And,
I was just like, whoa.
Yeah. Man. It's like, I just can't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I thought that it was cool. Like, Matt gets this is like typical Matt of like, okay, he goes into his house and he's like, okay, I'm safe, I'm good, we're good, like, right, no issues. And then he discovers his sisters are not there, and his parents are like, I don't care about them.
Who cares? Town's being overrun by creatures we have no idea what they are, but they're slaughtering and eating everybody.
Right. But and
it's fine if the girls aren't here.
I know. And Matt's like, okay, I gotta go. Like, so he puts himself at he's like, no, not even a question. He's like, where are they? All right, I'm out. Like, I'm gonna go find them. And then he knows them so well, he knows where their hiding spot is too. Yeah, which is great. So I loved Matt this episode. Loved him. Yeah, and he's like, all right, we're gonna go remember how we play hide and seek. Like, we're gonna go do this. And like, as it's a fun contrast, because in the books, he's always, when you finally get a point of view character or point of view from him, he's always talking about how annoying his sisters are. Like, one of the reasons he's very stealthy, he says, is because he always had a bunch of sisters around who were like looking for things to tattle on him about. Right. Which and so he's always trying to avoid his sisters. His sisters are always just kind of mean to him. But in this case, totally different relationship. Right. And like, he's like their parent, really. Yeah. Yeah. And it's cool to see him. Yeah. Oh yeah. His relationship with his sisters are better. Yeah. His parents, it's disappointing, like I said, but yeah, whatever. Yeah. And then we get the next day. Everyone's hanging out, hurt. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was Maureen's like, oh, hey, the four of you are right here with me. Yeah, let's go. Nynaeve gets dragged off. Right. I was like, my wife is like, now here's the twist. Nynaeve dies in episode 1. Oh. Yeah, but she was joking. But I was like, geez. I mean, that from the trailers that she doesn't. Right. But don't will it. Yeah, it was just funny. But then Maureen's like, hey, you guys are here. And let me just tell you guys, like in broad daylight in front of everyone, one of you guys is the Dragon Reborn, and we need to get out of here.
Yeah. So weird. And I actually was annoyed when she was like, it's one of the four of you. Like, no, it's not. I'm like, it's one of the three of them.
Right.
Not one of the four of them.
Yeah. Well, it goes back to the...
I know. And I was surprised that it annoyed me, but it did annoy me.
Yeah. So, and then they're all like, I did like that there's the Trolloc army just like marching down, and and they're like, she's like, you don't have time to think. We got to go now or your village is toast.
Yeah. Yeah. So I thought that was good, because then you add this urgency. You're like, okay, let's get out of here. And everything moves along. And then that's it. They're done.
So the one time I teared up at all in this show was at the end when you saw that Matt was leaving and his sisters are just devastated. And I like, as a dad, like just thinking of if I had to leave my 3 and 7-year-old, even though my wife would take great care of the kids, or even if my wife somehow wasn't in the picture, like the grand, like my sisters would, everyone that surrounds them loves the heck out of them. They'd take way better care of them than his degenerate parents. But just the fact that he doesn't have time to make arrangements, he just has to like, I'm sorry, I have to go, like this is important, and sorry, like goodbye. It really just made, I was like, oh my gosh, like can you imagine this situation where you've had the worst night of your life ever, like crazy beasts that you didn't think even existed, like show up, kill like half the village, destroy everything, and then some random woman who has powers that apparently you've heard a lot of bad things about, right? It like says, hey, we gotta go, no time to think, let's go, like we have to go in the next 5 minutes or we're screwed. And can you just imagine, you just have to make that decision and everyone's watching you leave and you're like, I don't know, like just the sheer adrenaline of that situation and the sheer desperation. I don't know. Very intense ending.
Yeah, it was. And then that was the end of episode 1.
Okay. So episode 2.
Give me all your thoughts on this opening.
So Children of the Light.
Right.
And
White Cloaks.
Yeah, the White Cloaks. Very disturbing.
Super disturbing. So this does not happen in the books.
No, just like the casual malice he has toward Aes Sedai.
And like you saw his collection, right, on hanging from his belt of Aes Sedai rings. Like that was disturbing.
Right. Well, and so he's got an Aes Sedai there, and he's I was wondering if he was going to eat a part of her. Actually, I thought that was it.
Ooh, I did not think that.
Yeah, but it wasn't. But like, so he goes up to her. He like walks up, and you see a plate, and you realize her hands are just there, like severed hands are on a plate, and he just like takes the ring off one of them to hang on his trophy belt, and he just watches her burn to death as he's just drinking his juice or whatever, you know.
I will say, in this entire like opening sequence, there was one part that I liked.
Okay.
And this is because I like do a little bit of video editing at work. So I just loved the imagery that you saw when he was sitting there eating and drinking, and his goblet is there, and you can see her in the reflection of his goblet. I was like, oh, that's cool shot. I like that. That's the only part I liked. I could appreciate the framework there. It's beautiful. Everything else was disturbing.
Yeah. So Prime is an interesting thing to watch it on, because if you pause, you can see who the actors are and what the characters' names are. And it was just Yellow Aja Aes Sedai, or Yellow Aes Sedai, something like that.
Oh,
She didn't have a name, but yeah, it was just, I don't know. I've always hated just the glorification of, like, he was like reveling in the torture. Like, he just watches her burn to death. That's a horrifying way to die. After they chop her hands off, and he's just
it's
talking so smugly to her.
it is serial killer vibes. Like,
Yeah,
honestly, that I was this it was so disturbing, just the pure joy and ecstasy he took out of killing I said I like hunting them basically.
yeah,
Yeah. Not a fan. And
yeah,
that's how it started.
yeah. I didn't like that at all. It was just, I don't know. I guess this is coming from, I never liked the scene in Star Wars when Jabba just feeds Ula, like the dancer,
Yeah.
like, I always, just the joy that they get from ending another sentient being's life for sport, like watching them die, to like being killed by a monster. It's very akin to that. I've always thought that was one of the most repulsive scenes in Star Wars,
Mm-hmm.
honestly.
Mm-hmm.
And this was one of them too. So I don't know. Nothing will make you hate White Cloaks more than seeing something like that, though, and they deserve to be hated. So I guess I'm okay on some levels with it.
Right. So, I mean,
Well, and they had to set the stage for later in the episode too.
yeah. Yeah. And like you said, that they deserve to be hated. If you haven't read the books, you don't know that. So then if you're just going into this blindly watching the show, you need something really, like, really disturbing that's going to make you hate them, I think.
Right. Right. And that's this. How long was the start? Like 5 minutes or something? It wasn't that long. And
No.
you didn't need anything else. Like, they set the stage so well. You're like,
Mhm.
oh, these guys hate Aes Sedai, and
Mhm.
they delight in just casually torturing and killing this person.
Right.
As opposed to a little bit later, actually, one of them who apparently condones what this guy's doing, one of the White Cloaks, actually advises someone
Mhm.
to go talk to an Aes Sedai and get help.
Right. Which
Which,
is, I
I
was
don't know.
shocked that he said that in front of him.
Yeah,
This guy is, man, ugh.
yeah,
I'm just so disturbed by him.
yeah. Me too. I thought it
So,
was disgusting.
yeah.
So then it cuts back to what the main characters scene,
Well, then we get the
right?
opening credits for the first time, I believe.
Oh, that's right. Which were okay. I didn't.
Yeah. They, I hate to say this. They were very Game of Thronesy.
Oh, were they? I haven't watched enough Game of Thrones to really know,
That
to be able to make a comparison.
that's how I understood what they were doing. Like, it was weaving and
Hmm.
etc. But just the movement of it and the flow of it gave me Game of Thrones vibes.
That's fair.
Which is, I'm not saying that as a bad thing.
I
Just
mean,
just making an observation.
they're trying to fill that slot, though.
Oh, totally.
So yeah.
Absolutely. Um yeah, then we go back to the group.
Oh, you know what? You know what was really cool, actually? At the end of episode 1, they
Mhm.
finally said the start of, like, the very first
Ooh,
lines of, like,
that's right.
this. There are no beginnings or endings to the Wheel of Time, but this was a beginning. Like, I got super, like, not very many times I got like chills in these episodes, but that was one I was like, oh, this is a beginning.
I actually noticed that they said that too when I was watching it, and I just completely forgot because my brain is all over the place. But yeah, I did enjoy that. I really enjoyed, actually. I thought that was a really fitting end to episode 1
Yeah.
to have that. So,
Yeah, I thought it was really cool. And
mhm.
so anyways, going back to the main group. They are running from the Trollocs, who are right
Mhm.
on their heels.
Mhm. They are. And this is Yeah, this is where they go for the ferry crossing.
Yeah. So no Tom Maryland, by the way. He's just
Yeah,
not there.
I noticed that. I was like, "Where's Tom?" And then I got really worried that Tom wasn't going to be a thing.
Right. Well, I remember seeing a character I thought was Tom, and I remember there was being speculation, but and I'm guessing that there had been some kind of release that, oh, hey, this is Tom Maryland for later. But yeah, I didn't know.
Right. So yeah, so it's just them running, and they get on this little boat,
Mm-hmm.
pay the guy to go across, and all the Trollocs are there, and Trollocs can't swim.
Apparently not. No. Well, I thought it was actually a really funny thing because there's this time that they go across like some shallow water.
Yeah.
The Trollocs are like plow through some shallow water, and I was like, oh, it looks like Trollocs aren't afraid of water at this time.
Right.
And then like really soon after that, they're all like
no.
You see like the like cartoon like like smoke on their heels, like stop at the nick of time.
I actually found it amusing when after like obviously the one Trolloc falls into the water. They all kind of at the front like realize they're like, oh yeah, like we shouldn't do that, and they're trying to like lean back and push against them all. I was like, wow, you guys are kind of smart. Not really, but kind of
trying to preserve themselves. Yeah. Yeah.
So this part though, so like we've talked about this in the books, how like they go across and then Moraine basically just destroys this guy's boat, and it's like, oh, sorry, like to destroy your livelihood kind of thing. And I mean, a similar thing happens here, except he dies too. And
he kills himself because he's stupid.
Right. He jumps back in the water. I actually thought, I don't know why I thought this. I do know why I thought this. I was thinking like that Trolloc that was in the water was going to come get him. But I was like, you're going to get snatched. What are you doing?
That's fair.
But yeah, he's gone. The boat's gone. Everything's just destroyed. And like, I understand why she did it. She had a point. Like you send the boat back, you go back, like you're going to give them a way to get to us. Like you can't do that. And she
didn't have a choice.
She didn't have a choice. But man, was she ever cold. Oh, cold, like stone cold here. I was like, dang, this was actually like, I love Moraine. And in this moment, I was like, I don't know if I'm supposed to like you anymore. Like,
that's too bad.
I was like, man, you guys just flicked the switch. It was so abrupt for me that I was like, wow, that hurts a little bit. But I get it. But damn.
No, I mean, you're supposed to see like her resolve is second to none. She's just like, no, we're gonna do this. We're gonna live, and we're gonna like screw over the Dark One as much as we can.
And she does a really good job of explaining it, like later on to Egwene. And I actually really enjoyed her explanation of it, which was like, if you think logically about the whole situation, you have to do what's logical. And logically speaking, if he went back and I spared him, he would have been killed. Like there's no way he would have been able to save his family. He's going into a horde of Trollocs. Of course he would have died. So he was going to die. He either had to stay with us or he was going to die. And then they would have his boat to come across the river. So it's a very logical explanation. And she did a good job of explaining that. But it was still really cold in the moment.
Yeah, I was good with it. Frankly, I mean, we've read the books.
Fine.
Well,
no, I know.
You got to do it. I mean, if you need to live, if you're gonna accomplish like this, it's not just a matter of convenience. It's a matter of she not only she was going to save her group, she was also going to save that guy,
right?
The ferryman. Like he wasn't going to live anyways, and she's like, oh, and we'll even get you to another town. Like,
yeah. And then he's like, nah, like my son is, like, I get that. And, you I felt for us. I was like, man, your son's coming straight into a horde. He's going
Right.
to die. Like that was my thought. I was like, your son's
Mhm.
not living. Your son's not coming across for you.
Right. Well, and I can imagine his desperation to get to his son. I totally
Totally.
get that. I do. I think she did the best she could, but there's two really interesting parts. So first off, that guy before he jumps in and commits suicide, essentially,
Mm,
he
right.
says the children of the light are correct. Like you guys are
Yes.
just the worst, and
Mhm.
that's like the Two Rivers used to be a group that like they were so isolated in the books, I should say. They were so isolated that no one like they didn't know who the White Cloaks were. They didn't know who they barely knew what Aes Sedai were. Like there wasn't they
Right.
they talked to some merchants
Yeah.
sometimes. So the fact that the White Cloaks have clearly, I mean, and there are other textual evidence pieces that suggest like they're from the Two Rivers, that people know who the true Two Rivers people are.
Mhm.
It was just a very, and not to mention the Two Rivers, like they knew to call Moraine Sedai when they saw the ring. So
Yes.
they weren't nearly as isolated as it in this version of Wheel of Time as they were in the books, which I guess I'm okay with. Just different. Have to
Right.
deal with that.
I think I think they did that to avoid having to explain things.
That makes sense.
Right? Like you're condensing all of this material into 8 episodes and you,
Hmm.
you got to speed it up because like you said, like the first episode was basically Winter Night, and I was shocked that we spent a whole first episode on it because I was like, we got to get through this whole book, and now we only have 7 more episodes.
Yeah, we
And
gotta
we've
go.
we like chop, we're only like 3 hours in.
Hmm.
So yeah, I can see why they did that to kind of just hurry things along.
Yeah, and yeah. So I thought it was interesting. The Yeah, so he says that, and then let's see. There was one other interaction that I thought. I guess I guess just in general, like maybe this isn't even it, but the Two Rivers folks were just like, whoa, who have we shackled ourselves with? It was even more extreme than in the books, where they're like,
Mhm.
oh, they've had some time to get to know her a tiny bit, and it's taken a little bit, but like just the idea that she very obviously was the one who created that whirlpool and did that stuff. Like
Yeah,
now they're on the other side of the river. The Trollocs are after them. They don't know if they can trust Moraine. They don't know what to do.
right. The whole thing is just yikes. Like,
Yeah, like what? And it was fairly early on that like that Egwene and Perrin have that scene where she's like, do you think we'll go back home? And or he says, do you think we'll go back home? And she's like, nope.
right? Just like, nope, buckle up.
I did think it was funny. Moraine's like, hey guys, go get some sleep. And then
Right.
halfway through, she just wakes Egwene up. She's like, let's talk.
I know. I was like, okay. So this is well, and like when she did do that though, it was pretty funny, but I knew I was like, okay, so this is where she's gonna tell her that she can do this. Like
Mhm.
you can channel. And
Yeah,
that's exactly what happened.
I thought it was fine the way they
Mhm.
handled that. Frankly, it was. It's all just so rushed in a lot of things. So yeah, they get across there, they sleep and everything. They have Rand. So okay, two things happen. First off,
Right.
you realize that they're skipping Baerlon. They're not going to Baerlon.
Yes.
and
Yes.
and so therefore then they have a dream with Baalzamon in it, and instead of him doing this really long obnoxious, like, I'm sorry, I in Eye of the World,
Hmm.
in any, like when they talk to Baalzamon and have those dreams and it
Hmm.
takes like an hour to talk to him,
Hmm.
I get the most bored ever. i i I will admit to having skipped through a couple of them
That's
this
fair.
read through, because I just hate them. And so I like that they included the dreams, but
Hmm.
they were pretty quick and done.
I was going to say I was curious how they were going to handle the dreams, and I think they did a really good job of it.
Yeah, I
I
think.
It's very obvious. Like, to me, anytime we were in a dream, I was like, we're in a dream.
Mm-hmm. Oh man, and then they mimicked the part in Baerlon where there's the rats who were tortured to death.
Yes, I did notice that.
But with bats, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. When Rand was like, when he wakes up from that dream, and he's like, at first I was like, are you trying to make yourself puke? Like, what is going on? And then I was like, oh no, you're like trying to grab something. And for whatever reason, makes absolute no sense. The only thing that popped into my mind of what he would be grabbing, for some reason, I thought somehow that like weird thing the White Cloak ate was in his throat, and he was trying to like pull. Anyway, awkward, super not right. But he pulls this bat out of his throat, and I was like, okay. And then he wakes up. Sorry, because that was part of the dream,
right?
Or was it?
Well, you don't know, because then the bat was real on some level,
right?
And then Moraine is like, you will tell me every single dream you have from now on, and gets all dictatorial. Right? I don't know what the right word is. She gets all dictatory, and they're like, I don't like her.
Right. And this is when you see like Rand is pissed basically and wants to know if she did this and then you see like Lan step in and it's just like all protector of Moraine. I was like, okay, this is moving along at an interesting pace, and I quite enjoy it. This though, like all of this happens and there's all of this tension and they don't trust Moraine and all this is happening, and then now Egwene is kind of like, well, she's sticking her neck out for us and all this. This is why this scene here is why I did not enjoy their dynamic, Rand and Egwene's dynamic, in the first episode, because you have them be very obviously in a relationship and they like each other and they're trying to figure things out and they don't whatever, lovey-dovey, and then she flicks a switch and is completely how she is in the book. I'm like, this doesn't, now I'm jarred by her character shift. This is how it should have been, because it doesn't make sense to me that now all of a sudden she is being this way when she wasn't that way to him before.
See, I felt like there was, I liked this part, maybe one of the most part out of all of the parts in this season. I liked it. I liked that interaction, but maybe not just the Rand and Egwene one, but them all waking up and leaving, and Rand getting pissed, and Egwene the night before having like laid with Rand, and like he woke up and he's like, no, get out of here. I wanted to be alone. Like I don't want you around. Right. And I mean, the fact that she had essentially in episode 1 dumped him,
right,
and then she wants to get close to him, and he's just like, what do you want from me? Because she clearly wants some closeness with him.
I have whiplash. Okay, like this is just, it's no, I just don't like it.
I loved it though. So so yeah, she's like, she's done so much for us. You have no idea. And then and then she's like, she's like, I'd think of leaving you too if I was her. Yeah. And he's like, you already did, or something. He's like, you already made that choice. I was like, yes, like score one for Rand. He just so good.
It's not about keeping score, Adam. Come on.
Oh man. Oh, it was just such a funny thing, because she she was being so inconsistent, so crazy. And yeah, I just thought what it felt like though to me was just this bickering couple who don't, like they're just always at each other. Nya, 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 nya,
Yeah.
Like, that's what it felt like. Just this really visceral feeling of like they're just pissed at each other and they're just going to hit each other however they can. And he's pissed at Moraine, and then she decides to take her side, and he's pissed about that. And then of all people, Matt is the reasonable one, and he's like, well, she can make whirlpools of death, so let's try to keep on her good side.
But also like still kind of in character for Matt, so
right. Oh, I thought
I'm
they played it perfectly. They did a great
yeah,
job of he's like, well, I have to go with her. Like, there's not really a choice here. We still have to go with her. So
yeah.
maybe try not to piss her off so much.
Hmm. Yeah. So
Hmm.
and then we run into the White Cloaks again as they leave.
Oh, shocker. That was totally new, total brand new
Yeah.
thing. Oh my gosh. And I loved Moraine in this.
Me too. Okay. Me too. I thought she you laugh. I was like I thought she was really level-headed and logical
Mhm.
and very manipulative.
Well, she's constrained by her by her three oaths, so she can't lie.
Right.
And so I was like, oh, she's a sister. She's talking about an Aes Sedai. Like I caught that, and
Mhm.
and then she explains it later. She's like, the truth an Aes Sedai tells is not the truth you hear,
Yeah.
or whatever. And I was like, oh, this is so good. But yeah, I thought it was really interesting the way she played it off of like, no, some weird creatures with horns and stuff did this to me, because she knew that the White Cloaks were going to recognize a Trolloc wound
Hmm.
when they saw one, but then she could play off like, I don't know, it was just in this weird town, like I don't what were those creatures? I have a wound, and she kind of played it off as not knowing,
Yeah.
and the White Cloaks just believed her.
And that whole scenario where when she was doing that, when she was just like, oh, as soon as he touched her, first of all,
Mhm.
hang on, back up. He was doing this whole like weird, creepy, caressy pat down. I was like, can you just stop? Like,
Right.
this is so ugh, like disturbing, disgusting. I I
I know.
did
And
not
then Land
enjoy.
calls him out. He's like, I'm from the
Yeah.
Borderlands where we don't do crap like that. Like,
He called
or
him
no.
out and I was like, ooh, he's going there.
Well, the White Cloak knows he's being offensive. In some ways, he's trying to just flush out like some kind of admission of some sort.
It is so gross. Anyway, so he's doing this, and then he obviously touches her wound. And as soon as she starts like spinning this and how she's the way
Hmm.
she's going about it, I was like, girl, you're so manipulative right now, and
Oh,
I'm here for it.
dude, I loved her smile in it.
Yeah.
She smiled a few times. She's like, oh, like, oh yeah, thank you for, like she just seemed like the perfect,
Mm-hmm.
oh man, like we're just along our way. Thank you so much for letting us by. Like,
Exactly.
she smiled at the right times, and I'm like, she never smiled at the Edmonds Fielders, really. But
She doesn't like the Emmons Fielders. She's tolerating them.
right. Well, but we do see more personality of hers come out as well. Like,
Mm-hmm.
she starts smiling about things and start like when she interacts with Egwene, you could see her personality a little bit poke out here and there as
Totally.
well. And when she was talking with Lan, like at the very start when they were in the bathtub together randomly,
Yeah.
that you could see she's a real person, but I really love that when she's in private, she's
Mm-hmm.
kind of she's human, but then when she's in control of something, when she's on a mission, when she's outwardly, she's just like very, I'm a high lady, and I'm an Aes Sedai. Don't mess with me because I know my business.
Yeah. Um,
I think she did a great job of showing the two sides of her.
it was so good. I really enjoyed her in this specific.
Oh, I laughed out loud at the start when she was going to the ferryman, and she's like, no, we got to go right now. And they give him money and stuff, and he's like,
Yeah.
you're not a lady that people say no to a lot, are you? And she's like, no.
Yeah. Let's go.
No, no, people don't say no to me. Like,
Yeah.
and neither should you. You learn your place, bud.
Yeah. Which is hilarious because I picked up on that too, and I was like, great. And then she's super cold to him, and then now I'm back on Team Moraine, loving her. Not that I left the team, but
You kind of sulked a little bit.
I did. I was like, should I
Hmm.
like you right now, morally?
Should I report you guys for drinking? I'm not sure. I don't.
uh, yeah, and then this I also really enjoyed this because, like you said, she's explaining to Egwene about the truth that an Aes Sedai tells is
Mhm.
not the truth that you hear or whatever. I also enjoy that she was saying, like, I can't heal myself. Like, it has to be somebody else. Which I thought was a nice little tidbit of information.
Mhm. Yeah, which is why we normally travel with each other.
Mhm.
And yeah, so they get past the White Cloaks, and then her wound is just really messing with her, which isn't something she had to deal with in the books.
No.
And I was like, why is she like, she needs to sleep? Like, is she using the power so much that she just like is passed out and then, like in a mini coma? But then I
Mhm.
realized, oh, it's because of the wound she took from the
Right.
Trollocs. And so Lan's like, all right, we're just gonna go to Shadowlogoth. We just gotta go.
Yeah. He kind of like skirts around it. And she
Mhm.
calls him on it. Like, they do have this conversation, even though she
Right.
is, basically half out of it.
Mhm.
And is like, we can't, like, the only reason you haven't seen Trollocs around is because of how close we are to Shadowlogoth. And then they show up anyway.
Well, but they're not going in.
Right.
So then they go in, and I'm immediately reminded by the fact that at this point in the book,
Mhm.
not only is Tom still with them, Nynaeve has at this point also joined their group.
Correct. And neither of them are here now.
Right. So the party's much smaller, and Moraine isn't a presence in Shadowlogoth. She's like unconscious, basically.
Right.
So Lan's like, here's a tiny bit of information. Just don't mess things up.
Right. Don't touch anything. Eat your own food. Don't do anything, basically.
Right. But he's so concerned by her, he doesn't really give them enough information. I was like, that's not enough for me either.
No.
And then, yeah, and then essentially Matt just finds a dagger. He doesn't have any interaction with Mordeth at all.
I know. I was really sad that Mordeth wasn't there.
Though he kind of they hinted at it, because Matt goes outside and then he sees a moving shadow somewhere.
Right.
And he's like, oh, like it looked like a silhouette of a person.
Right.
And he finds the dagger on his own. Perrin isn't there.
Yeah, no one's there.
Rand's not there. Rand's off, like holding hands with Egwene again, off and on again with each other.
Hot and cold, giving me whiplash over here.
Yeah, I'm like Rand and Egwene are just doing each other probably up in the, and Matt's doing his thing, and I don't know, it's just this weird.
Perrin sulking.
Yeah, well, and again, Matt shows up. Before that, he shows up to talk to Perrin, and Perrin's just like, I killed my wife, but I can't tell anyone because I'm quiet. And I don't like to tell I don't like to tell people things. And you can't even hear my inner thoughts. So I'm kind of way more boring than in the books. And Matt's like, oh man, you must be really hurting. Like, here's like, I'm super poor. I have to steal things just so my little sisters can have a good Christmas, like, because
Right.
that's why he stole the things, was to be able to celebrate their holiday, and
Right.
to get the kites or whatever they're called, the lanterns. And so he's like super poor. Like, he doesn't want to take their money. He's that poor. He's like, it shames him. And yet then he has this really workable, functional, awesome knife. And he knows it's going to make a really big impact on Perrin. And so he just gives it to him.
Yeah.
Despite the fact, like, he doesn't have the money to go buy another knife that good.
Yeah. That's a good point. See, this is why I like Matt.
Yeah, he like they made him into like this really cool, multifaceted character where he's like this degenerate, lazy a-hole who is also really funny and endearing and thoughtful in unexpected ways.
Yeah. And we also should not be surprised that he took the dagger, because he takes things.
Yeah, well, and the whole time he's just like, you know what, I don't know what to believe about this. I feel like we have to go with them, but at the same time, I don't know if I have to, if we should.
Right.
Oh, so okay, here's something disturbing.
Okay.
So I'm sorry, did you have anything more to say about, like, so just kicking around, hanging out in Shadowlogoth?
I was going to make a correlation in Shadowlogoth when they're leaving, but if you're ready to move on.
Oh, well,
I was going to talk about the mist. next.
Yeah, so that's exactly what it was so disturbing, because
Yeah.
as they're all escaping, so Bella is like the horse of Rand, who he eventually like gives to Egwene, and like Bella shows up throughout the series, like throughout all the books, every single book. Bella is, well, she might be absent here and there, but Bella is consistently like involved in things, and I think they just killed Bella.
Yeah.
Because I think that the only two horses that made it out were Lan and Moiraine's.
I was so surprised when I saw it happen that I actually like I let it play out for a little bit, and then I was just like, what? And I skipped back and watched it again. I was like, it was so, I did not like it. It was disturbing to watch.
I mean, it's kind of cool, and it's just a horse. I mean, I didn't think it was Bella, but maybe it was. But
like I've told you the story. I saved a friggin' mouse that was stuck in my window a few weeks ago. Watching a horse like die and turn to dust, I was like, why? Don't do this to me. But
that's fair.
My thought on this whole thing, it kind of seemed like, because so Lan doesn't give them enough information, like you said, right? He's like, yeah, just like eat your own food, don't touch anything, blah blah blah. Matt goes and takes this dagger, and then the mist shows up. So I immediately was like, they're really making it seem like Matt did this, and now they're being punished because he took this. Like that was the direct correlation.
Ooh, it's like Aladdin in the cave of treasures or whatever, and Abu goes and grabs the whatever, and they're like, you shall not touch this, and I'm gonna melt down and kill you all.
Well, I mean, he takes this dagger, and like that's when
instantly
when it goes sideways. So it's like, okay,
you're right. That's a really fun parallel. Yeah, just damn it all, Matt. Damn it all. This is why we can't have nice things.
This is why. And I do like how they portrayed it. It didn't really seem like mist. It seemed more like mold. It didn't seem, and I can see why they took that liberty, because I think if you made it look like mist, it might look too much like when Moiraine is channeling and drawing from the power. So you would make it look different, and you want it to be dark, so it's scary and like this whole thing. But it just looked like mold growing on the ground, and you had to run. And that's how they separated them.
Yeah, and then I was fine with it, actually. The way they had the correct, quote unquote, correct groupings. Yes. Separated. And then Rand and Matt did not go onto the ferry or onto a boat. And I was like, so the start of episode 3, I was like, this is totally uncharted new territory.
Okay. I was so confused, which we'll get to in a second, because I loved how episode 2 ended.
Yeah, okay, so
it ended.
Let's see. Yeah, so tell me how it ended. I forget.
It ended with, so you have Rand and Matt running. You have Perrin and Egwene jumping into the river and swimming, which was great. But then you have Lan and Moiraine escaping out of there. Oh, we completely forgot to mention that when all of this was happening, Moiraine kind of like wakes up and realizes where they are, and is like, "You've killed us all," to Lan, which dramatic much.
Which was false, yeah. Like
super
choke on your iced oats now, Moiraine, with your dramatic lies.
Anyway, so it ends with Nynaeve showing up with the blade right by Lan there.
Yeah. What I said immediately was like, what's this? A Gaideen cut off his guard? like in Lord of the Rings, where she says, what's, like, Arwen does the exact same thing. What's this? A ranger cut off his guard?
I was like, okay, here we go. And then it ended.
Yeah. Yeah, it was cool. Like Perrin and Egwene escape without Bella.
Without Bella. So maybe you're right.
Rest in peace, Bella. Rip Bella. Damn it all. Pisses me off. But
Now I'm
yeah,
sad.
you should be.
Damn it.
So yeah, that episode 2 cliffhanger. Okay, so episode 3 starts with
With
Nynaeve, an explanation on how Nynaeve survived, which I actually called. I was like, oh, I bet the start of episode 3 is like after she showed up. I actually, every prediction I made in in these episodes came to pass. And
really,
yeah, I don't normally have 100% track record, but I bet I made like 7 or 8 different things of like, oh yeah, Perrin's wife's gonna die, Nynaeve's gonna, but this was one of them that I was like, oh, I bet the start of episode 3 is going to be Moraine, or not Moraine, sorry, Nynaeve surviving against the Trolloc. And I don't know, the scene with the Trolloc and her being dragged off and stuff. I was like, why didn't the Trolloc just kill her way sooner than he should have? Not that I wanted him to, but
I was so confused why the Trolloc just turned on his buddy.
Well, that didn't surprise me. Trollocs are just dicks. Like,
oh, I mean, yeah, but also like I was like, you have an unconscious. I guess you just go for whatever.
He's like, someone else might come and take that guy. Like the human I'm with is so weak, I'll just go and kill. I felt like the Trolloc's actions after he dropped her, after that, I felt like they were all pretty natural for a Trolloc.
Oh, it's just personally. Well,
so one disturbing thing about the Trollocs that isn't really in the books is like, so they do eat humans, they eat their own kind, whatever, but they never in the middle of battle feed. Like that's not a thing with Trollocs. They don't get distracted like that. They kill and then when they're done, then they can eat.
Right. And
which
found
makes
that
sense.
Disturbing. Like especially during winter night, I was like, this is gross.
But it adds to it does make things more disturbing for sure. I don't deny that.
It was like zombies and werewolves and ugh.
Oh yeah, they're gross. They do gross things. And then I did find it a little bit weird. Like I liked how resourceful Nynaeve was, but Tam Thor with his own blade as a blade master can't kill a Trolloc. And Nynaeve's like, I'll steal a Trolloc's dagger and stab him one time. And I don't know. It just, I love Nynaeve. I love her resourcefulness. I love that we get to see her doing things without having to worry about using the power and stuff. But this seemed a little bit like, oh, okay. Like,
how did that work?
Good for you. Like, I guess that's cool. I'd expect if her character was played by like Arnold Schwarzenegger, maybe, but Chuck Norris could have done that sort of thing.
It was, that pool scene was interesting.
The pools aren't in the books anywhere at any point. She's like, this is a secret pool. I'm like, since when?
And now it's full of Trolloc blood.
So yeah, so it starts, and then the Trolloc is dead and stuff, and the water swirls, and then we get the opening credits again. And what I thought it was going to be, I thought it was going to like swirl into the Wheel of Time symbol to go into the the opening credits or whatever, which it didn't, but
that would have been cool.
Initially I was like, oh, that would be neat, but then they didn't, and I guess I'm okay with it. So
missed opportunity.
It is. No, it was water. It wasn't mist. But
thank you.
just when you think I'm being serious.
I never think you're being serious.
I don't take you seriously either.
Oh man.
Hashtag rude.
So rude. This is why we're good friends.
This is narrator. It wasn't.
Oh, okay. So they're separated. They're separated. Perrin and Egwene are doing their thing wherever they are. We kind of see Matt and Rand wherever they are.
Do you want to just take each of the arcs separately? Like we could talk about all of Moraine.
Okay.
And
yeah.
Nynaeve, and then.
Yeah.
Would that work? Do you want to try that?
Yeah.
Cool. Which one do you want to do first?
Do we want to just do Moraine and Nynaeve since we're all like we've been talking about Nynaeve anyway?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Oh man, I lolled actually. This part was really funny. So Nynaeve's like has Lan at a disadvantage. He's like, we both know you're not gonna. And she like tries to stab him, and he like does his cool warder trick, and she's no match for him, which is totally makes sense. Like she has a sword that she clearly doesn't have much training with,
right?
And so he just like dodges it, does and he's like, whoa, you actually tried to kill me, like, but he's like impressed. He's like, that's amazing. I'm not even mad. That's amazing.
It's almost like a proud fatherly moment.
Yeah. And then she tries more, and he's like, all right, I'm just gonna knock you out.
Yeah.
And then the next scene it shows her like tied with like 4 or 5 rope lengths to a tree. She's like, she can't move. I was like, kind of serves her right. Like she's just being a hostile bee right now, like,
but also so aggressive.
Yeah.
But I like not mad about it.
Yeah, I thought it was just very in character for her. She's just
totally.
And even as he's like, all right, so Moraine she's gonna die soon, and you're of wisdom, like, just do your thing and heal her. And she's like, I thought it was so funny. He's like, you're not in a position to bargain. And she's like, that wasn't bargaining, that was a threat. Let's not confuse things here. Like, I was threatening you guys. And it's just very Nynaeve. She's tied to a tree, can't do anything, and she's threatening people and just openly, just bluntly admitting.
Yeah, like, let me correct the facts here and tell you why this was wrong.
Right. She's like, funny. Everything about what you just said was wrong.
Oh man. Yeah. So I feel like Moraine is she's still a little out of it. She's still obviously needing to get wherever they're going.
Right. Well, so Lan and Nynaeve eventually come to an agreement, and Nynaeve is released. She decides she genuinely is trying to heal Moraine.
Mm-hmm.
And then, they didn't spend a ton of time on this. They kept going back and forth, but essentially it ended with, Nynaeve's like, okay, well, we're going to give her a little bit of energy here. And then Lan finds someone, and like he finds what he's looking for, whatever, and it's all mysterious. And so they get Moraine on a horse, and they go, and the episode actually ends here.
Right, exactly. With them riding up and seeing all these other Aes Sedai.
Yeah. Which, they see Logain. I think it's Logain, at least. I'm
pretty sure it's Logain.
I thought it was funny. The Aes Sedai's like, well, you're too late to help if that's what you want to do. But we already caught the man who could channel. I was like, I don't think they would actually talk like that if it wasn't for the audience.
Right? This is when she said that, she was like, you're too late. I was like, I don't think they were trying to join you.
Right. Well, but the way she spelled it out, like, we were just on a mission to get a man who could channel, and he's captured now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh, it's because they're talking to me, the audience. That's cool.
Narrator.
Right. That's what they were kind of doing. So,
yep.
But yeah, I'm very intrigued by this because this is not a thing that happens in the books.
Right. Yeah. This is all new.
Yeah, but we still have a hostile Nynaeve. We have a weak Moraine, which is just so different. Like, she's just physically well the entire first book, at least.
Right? It's very weird.
Mm-hmm.
Makes me wonder what they're going to do with her story.
Oh, I'm very curious, and so we're gonna see all the scenes from the trailers that we saw with Logain and stuff. It should be cool.
Yeah, exactly. So they actually, like, now that I'm thinking about it, it doesn't feel like they were in this episode very much. I wasn't really paying attention to the actual like screen time, but I feel like we spent way more time with Matt and Rand.
Right. Oh, we did, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, and we forgot to say one thing before we go into the Egwene and Perrin section.
Mm-hmm.
Was in episode 2, at one point Perrin's just on his own and some wolves come over and one of them just like licks his shin and leaves, and he's like, WTF was that? Like, because he has a cut,
right?
And I mean, I don't know. So this episode I was wondering, okay, so they're separated, and are we going to see Elias Machera?
Right. I was like, where's Elias?
They're like, hey, but first we're not going to be in a forest. We're just going to be out in the open, and we're going to just constantly hear wolves, which is super unnerving. If they don't even know if they're being chased, but they have to sleep. And and Perrin, instead of just like telling her, don't channel like that, you stupid girl, he's like, when they set a fire, he's like, was that me or you? Could you channel us some food? Like joking, like he's like,
like joking around.
Yeah, he's like, oh, you can channel. That's so funny. Like,
oh, and then I can't remember what part of the episode it was in, but he has a dream, with a wolf in it and Balsamon in it.
Oh, that was super creepy. Balsamon's just like looking through the window.
It was so creepy.
Yeah, I was like, oh look, Balsamon's in the window, and my wife's like, like jerk when she saw him.
I do like how they I don't know how they did this with him, but I like what they did. I'm enjoying how he's being portrayed in the dreams. It's super creepy.
Yeah, I like this version.
Yeah.
Even though I don't really, I stay away from scary movies because they just like piss me off. I don't like getting scared. That's not a thing that I'm into, but
yeah.
Not surprising, by the way, but
not surprising. We're the same.
We are, but yeah, they aren't. It wasn't enough to. It didn't turn it into like a horror scene or anything. So
it was really creepy with his dead wife.
Yeah, man. Well, yeah, they definitely. I will say overall, they made it much darker than I see it in, like, when I read it or listen to it. It's always so bright and sunny, and sometimes there's a filthy beggar who enters the scene, and you're like, oh, even his filth is bright,
Well, it's funny because when I was listening to it and reading it, whatever, I was like, oh, like the whole time you're like, we're going on an adventure, like it's just this whole trek, and this was not that.
Yeah, the weather's always bad. There's cold and everyone's dirty, and so yeah, they finally find like some tracks. They follow the tracks and they find the Tinkers, and I was like, oh, the Tinkers, they're going to be really bright and they're garish outfits, and they're just like gypsies who were like all world worn, and I was like, oh, you guys are kind of gross, actually.
I was waiting when they found the Tinkers, so then you have like this whole whatever introduction and they're hanging out, and I'm like, maybe Elias is already with the Tinkers.
Narrator, he wasn't.
Yeah, this hurt me that he was not there.
But the whole time the wolves like herded them, apparently, which I don't know what to make of it. You can't have every character in there. And I guess you could maybe make it so that Perrin eventually learns how to deal with wolves without a helper, like without someone to introduce them. But it'll make me sad if they don't have Elias. He's one of my more favorite characters. We actually thought for a little bit, so what, our firstborn's name is Perrin. We thought about naming our secondborn Elias.
Oh.
Because then they could be wolf brothers. But
like, I just wanted him to show up, and the whole wolf thing almost it feels creepier without Elias.
Totally. Well, yeah, like they're just what are they doing? What's their whole?
Yeah.
Well, because without Elias in the books, at least, the wolves are kind of just this malevolent force of like in that world. And I've always hated when fantasy books portray wolves as like these man killers, like man hunters and stuff. And in the first couple books, at least, Robert Jordan really does portray wolves as like they're a serious problem because they'll kill people.
Right.
Even though that's not really what happens in real life very often at all. And country people hate wolves because of what they do to their flocks and stuff, and I get that, but it's not necessarily what like they don't present threats to humans. They present threats to human livelihoods at times.
Right.
So
which makes sense.
Right, but then the two rivers, they're like, oh no, the wolves might kill us.
Yeah.
It just seemed, it felt like the one thing that Robert Jordan just didn't do his research on. He's like, well, wolves are kind of scary, but let's make them into this, a huge threat to the humans or something.
Ugh. Yeah. It was just, I don't know, just
there,
felt weird.
There was something grating, like there were just constant howls in the background, and I felt hunted kind of the whole time.
Which I guess maybe, I don't know, were we supposed to feel hunted?
I feel like they did a good job of portraying how Perrin and Egwene must have felt.
Yeah, I think so too. It was very, like, I just felt uncomfortable for them.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, is when you factor in everything else, you have like this carnage in your town. You've now been uprooted. Perrin's apparently killed his own wife, but we don't need to get into that.
Yeah. And Egwene's like, it's not your fault, and he's like rolling his eyes. She's like, I'll hug you, this will be impactful for you, and he's like,
right,
you have no idea, stupid, like, just stop.
Literally swung the axe, like,
yeah, literally my fault, even though I don't blame him, by the way, just to be clear. Like,
no,
I think what he did was perfectly reasonable given the circle. Like, he's not a warrior, and he's like, these creatures that he's from out of nightmares jump out, and he sees movement, like, fully justified in taking that swing from like an ethics standpoint, at least.
Right.
And the worst possible result, of course.
Right. But so, like, you take all of that into account, and now you have like the running from the mist, so you don't die from, which, like, they don't know what it is, but you've seen this horse, presumably Bella, just disintegrate, and you're like, all right, well, let's not touch this stuff and run. And now you're being hunted by wolves.
Right. Well, and so
while you're probably hungry and thirsty and delirious, like,
well, they didn't have time to grab their saddlebags. They're just going. And and so they get to the Tinkers, and the Tinkers are like, hey, here's like the words you have to say to get in. Which Elias was the guy who knew them initially. So it was kind of this awkward, contrived thing. But then, so Aram shows up. So Aram in the books is portrayed as a man who is too good looking for any girl to be able to resist. Like, he's almost too beautiful. Like, he's almost like a woman. And
he's super arrogant.
Yeah, super arrogant. Was he beautiful in this? Like, it just in your, like, was he attractive at all? He seemed just kind of like a ragamuffin, frankly, to me.
Yeah, it just seems like another
straight guy, I wouldn't know.
Just seemed like another dude. I was like, all right, that's Aram. And I feel like they just didn't really nail his personality. Like, when I was listening to this part of the books, it was very much like an alpha male personality. Like, that was his vibe. Super arrogant, gets his way, is really smug, and like that alpha mentality, and is lording it over Perrin, like rubbing Perrin's face in it.
Right.
And I did not get that vibe.
He's the guy who tells Perrin what condescending means.
Exactly.
He's like, condescending means talking down to others.
Yes. Thank you for the definition.
Yeah. Well, you're welcome. I just wanted to make sure you knew it too. So
I did. Thank you. Thank you. But like, they totally missed that. I think he almost seemed like like a jokester, and like he didn't take like their way of life seriously. He's like, oh yeah, like we steal people's children, and
Yeah, he's like, here's some stereotypes since you don't know about them. Like,
right?
here you go. Like, here's what you're supposed to think of us.
Yeah, it was very lighthearted.
Yeah, I mean, I could see him trying to be charming there. Maybe he sees, but
I didn't find it charming.
well,
But then again, I was also looking for him to be a bit of a dick.
it's fine, fair. Well, so was I. But I felt some satisfaction when they gave him those plates, and they were like, "I'm sure you're hungry," and they're like, "Oh yeah, we're starved," and they just dig in. It was kind of satisfying.
Yeah. So
they're with the Tuathawan now.
That's where they are.
A place of safety.
Yeah.
That's what this one is called, right?
Yeah, this one's called a place of safety. So, which I guess that it's about Perrin and Egwene, because I don't think anyone else feels that safe.
I mean, I guess you could say that Moraine and Lan got to Moraine needs healing from an Aes Sedai.
Yeah.
So like they're kind of safe. Like they're with friends now, ish.
Right. Ish.
Even as Leandrin is there.
Which we don't like.
Leandrin's not a nice person in book 2.
Yeah, I'm not a fan.
No
not a fan.
So go ahead.
Matt and Rand.
Totally new. Brand new.
Is so right away I was like, okay, so we skipped Baerlon, and I was like, okay, so after Baerlon they go to Shadar Logoth, and I was going through it in my head trying to figure it all out. I'm like, are we in Whitebridge? Like, where are we? Are we in White?
So yeah, they go for a while. It's not Whitebridge. They say the name of the town. It's some random little podunk town.
I was so lost. I was like, I don't know where we are in the story anymore. All of this is new.
Yeah, so they do this really funny logic thing of like, okay, Matt actually wants to go home because he needs to go look after his sisters, or he feels like that. Rand is like, no, we have to go take care of Egwene, and Egwene's going to Tarvalon, so we're going to go to Tarvalon. And then, of course, during the Perrin and Egwene thing, Egwene's like, they're just going to go home. Of course they're going to go home. And Perrin's like, no, I know Rand. He's going to go where he thinks you're going to go. And he thinks you're going to go to Tarvalon. And it was a very interesting shift, actually, of Perrin having more insight into Rand and knowing him better than Rand's supposed suitor and lover, like the person who's supposed to know him better than anyone else.
Right. Yeah.
So I thought that was a fun little, like, one person, like, Perrin had it all figured out. He had it mapped out. He knew, and he was right. And Egwene had it wrong.
Yeah, that's a good point. Which, like, I mean, maybe their relationship is so new. I don't know that she just doesn't know him.
I mean, you're also they focus on other things as well. Like they clearly don't talk very well. Like there's a lot of times of like just awkward. They don't communicate very well about things.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So anyways, Rand and Matt decide to go to Whitebridge, try to get to, Tarvalon. And then they come across a village, and there's a dead Aiel just stuck in a cage.
Super weird.
Yeah, and Matt's like, we have one of those in Evansfield? Charming, really.
So weird.
Yeah, creepy. Like,
yeah.
The first thing you see coming into this town is like, we kill people brutally here.
Yay.
Yeah, like, and we don't care to take their corpse out of our cage.
It's food for Trollocs.
Well, I don't know if Trollocs exist. I think this was the most interesting part, though. So they go, and I thought it was interesting when they got to the tavern, and I totally called this too. There's that guy who stole from Matt, and then Tom stole from him, and I paused it. I was like, oh, did you see that, to my wife? And she's like, what? And I'm like, okay, that guy bumped into Matt and stole something from him, and then Tom
Stole it.
stole it back. And she's like, oh, maybe. And then just like a couple scenes later, he's like, yep, here it is. I was like, yes, nailed it.
100% prediction rating.
Well, and then I was like, I bet that toward the end, I bet Matt's going to steal it back from him, which is right again. So good. I was on it. It's on it. If you want me to ruin any shows, I'm really good at it sometimes.
But so when they walked into this inn and the barkeeper, innkeeper, whatever you want to call her, Dana is her name. It's like, oh yeah, like our haven't seen those people, but the Gleeman just got here and he's gonna perform. I was like, finally, like, okay, we're getting Tom. Like,
oh, yeah.
Tom
I
is
was
here.
And then his lute is a guitar.
Yeah. I was like, okay, cool.
He sings a depressing song and leaves, and everyone's
Right?
like, what? It's so funny. I was I love this Tom though. This version, this Tom is really cool.
You like this version of Tom?
Yeah, I thought he's an improvement over the character in the book so far.
All right.
What about you?
I don't know what to think of him. I actually was like, he kind of seems like a scam artist.
Oh, fair. I mean, he seems like the scoundrel who wanders from village to village, like he's just on his own. He's a loner, and he's not necessarily, he's not entirely reputable.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, I don't feel like I can trust you. And in the books, it felt like we could trust you.
So once he gets to the point, and we're kind of skipping forward a little bit, we can go back, but once he gets to the point where he takes the Aiel down, just out of like respect for him, and then he respects Matt and his need to loot the corpse and everything, and kind of teaches Matt stuff, and like once you see that, I was like, oh man. So you can tell that he's worldly, like he knows all these different things, and he's kind of got the right priorities.
Right. Which is fair. Maybe it was just his intro.
Yeah, you're right. Well, and he's younger than he's portrayed in the books.
Right. Yeah, that is true. So, I mean, that didn't bug me too much. It was just, I don't know. My initial reaction to him was, I was happy he was there, and then I was like, oh, you're kind of a jerk.
Sure. Well, yeah, so one of the funniest scenes though, so they talk to the barmaid, whatever her name is, and like, can we do work? And so she puts them to work chopping wood, and of course Matt weasels out of it, but not before so they talk about like, oh, Matt Rand's like, oh, I thought that you wanted to go for Moraine, like, older women or whatever, and Matt's like, I can make exceptions, no big deal. And then what did he say? He was saying like, and then Rand was saying, oh, we could take turns, and Matt says, you think she'd be up for it? And Rand says, no, I was talking about the logs, about chopping logs. I had to rewind to see it. Like he was clearly talking about what? like passing her around. Like it's just, he's like, you think she'd be up for it? Like a serious question.
Matt just doesn't. This also too, like in this scene where they're chopping the logs, this is when you start to see Matt like be a dick.
Sure. Well, he's lazy. He hates work.
I know, but like you just like, this is when you first start, he starts to, like act out. His personality starts changing a little bit because he's got that dagger.
You wonder how much is the dagger and how much is his personal. Yeah, but you're right.
I wouldn't know.
You're right. He's starting to act out a little bit, and
he's less, jokery now.
Yeah, well, kind of.
Still, it's like a dark humor.
Well, so she puts him to work, and he still charms all the patrons and stuff.
Totally. But
He's funny.
still darker.
Well, yeah, you could see things are starting to maybe take a twist.
Yeah.
To south. But yeah, and then you have this awkward scene of the girl like talking to Rand,
So awkward.
and she's like, "Oh yeah, you two, like you're gonna have sex in here, right?" Basically. And
It was so when she started talking and like she's going along, whatever. I can't remember the exact words she used. But I remember sitting, I'm like, she going where I think, yep, she's going there.
yeah,
Okay.
a pinch and a tickle.
Yeah.
She's like, you guys can be as loud as you want in here. A pinch and a tickle is always good for an argument settling or something.
Yeah.
And then Rand's like, if I wanted a man, I could do better than him.
Right. just knocking him down.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah. It was and then yeah, the whole conversation there was weird.
Right. Well, and so it's all contrived though, because then
Mhm.
it turns out she's like really way more skilled with weapons than you would expect a barmaid to be.
Yep, absolutely. And
Yeah. And then Rand, she's like, no, you can't, like, no man could actually knock this thing down. And then this door down. And then he does. And this is a moment of him showing what he is. And
yeah.
I think I don't want to spoil anything beyond that, but like, this is a moment of, okay, like, good. We missed some things that happened in Bear Lawn and along the way, which is fine for a show, but
right
now we get to see a moment of this.
Yes. And that was why I wasn't too annoyed earlier on, because and why I don't think they'll I don't want to spoil anything. But yes, this was when you see him start to come into his own.
Yeah. And so yeah, it turns out the girl's a dark friend, and
Super creepy.
yeah, but it was fun. It was fun because then Tom just comes in and just flat out kills her. Just dagger through the throat, like second death from behind that we get to see.
Second time I've jumped. And also, can I just say, so before he kills her, like, so Rand busts down this door, starts running, grabs Matt, and is like, we gotta run, like, she's got my sword, let's go. And they're running, and then she's chasing after them, holding the sword. And I immediately am like, I feel like this is the equivalent of running with scissors times 100. And like, please don't do this. Like, and I'm just equating it to myself, because I'm like, I would fall and impale myself somehow.
I was just thinking, like, so what's she gonna do if, like, are the townspeople just gonna be like, oh yeah, I remember when that bartender who's been here forever like started chasing some patrons with a sword? Wasn't that a good time? Like, I don't know. It just seemed pretty weird that she's like, hey, I'm just gonna let everyone know that I'm chasing you.
Yeah, it was real. Yeah, that's a good point, because realistically, like, let's say she caught them and whatever and had her way and didn't die. Then what? She goes back to her regular bartending life the next day.
I guess she envisioned great things. You know, she said, she was like, last time someone captured a dragon, everyone remembered that person's name for 3,000 years or whatever.
Right. So she's thinking she's going to go down in legends or whatever.
Yeah, she's gonna be famous. And so and Tom's just like, no, I kill thee, I slay thee.
Kill me. I really enjoyed, so obviously he's like, she's a dark friend and whatever, kills her. I enjoyed the visualization of her blood, and you could see like the darker essence pooling into it. Like, I was like, that is really nice visualization right there.
Oh, that's fun. I didn't really, I was just waiting for it to swirl into a red Aja cape, and because that was toward the end of the episode, and I was like, oh, they're gonna see the red Aja, just a minute.
Right.
And then it didn't, but
whereas I was like, oh, look, it's like the dark one, like, coming out of her.
Yeah, I guess my predictions about swirling water were both wrong.
Yeah, well,
I guess those were my. I should own those predictions too.
you can't win them all, I guess.
It's very difficult. You can win them all. It's just very difficult.
It's very clearly.
Difficulty level is through the roof.
Yeah. So that's it, because then it's done. It's back to
Yep.
Moraine and the Aes Sedai.
Yeah, Tom's like, we're gonna get out of here fast, and they're gonna get on a boat
Right.
now.
That could be cool.
Hopefully. I'm really very interested. For those of you who have read the books up to basically to the very end, I'll be very interested to know if Tom ever meets Moraine and that, like, how he meets her in this series, because there's some interesting things that happen with Tom and Moraine's interactions, like repercussions that happen that aren't, I don't know, they're kind of delayed at the very least with the way the show is going. So
right.
I can't give away more than that, but I'm very interested to see if what happens when Tom meets Moraine, if he does.
I would hope he does.
Well, in the books, he doesn't. Well,
Yeah.
in the books at this point, like if they go to Whitebridge and then he gets taken out before, and the boys have to make their way. So
then I guess next episode we just learn about Logain.
Yeah. We'll get another pitched battle, I hope. Because the first episode we had a pitched battle. The other two, some action, but not much.
Right. A lot of running.
Which I don't need a ton of fighting and stuff, but it's kind of fun to see that. I mean, the visual aspect of a large scale fight is kind of fun.
Yeah.
Instead of seeing horses turned into dust and Bella being wiped out for no good reason.
Sad. Let's not focus on that.
Let's end on a sad note.
Way to go.
Goodbye, Bella. So anything else you wanted to say about the series? We've probably been talking so long. It's going to be a really long bonus episode.
It's a very long bonus episode.
There's a lot to talk about, though.
I know. I don't think I have anything else. I was surprised that I felt as nitpicky as I did feel. I expected myself to be okay with some creative licensing and let it flow, and I was shocked that I was not.
Well, yeah, for the most part, I was good with. I recognized they needed to make changes, and most of the changes were good. So far, how would you rate this? What's your, from 1 to 10? You can use decimals. Oof. What would you say your enjoyment level was?
Ooh,
just like total, taking everything into account, just your feeling.
Like out of all 3 episodes.
Yeah, like it doesn't matter that if you're pissed about the books or you're happy, if they stayed in continuity, whatever, your total overall at the end feelings. What's from 1 to 10?
Yeah.
How happy with the series are you so far?
I would say like a soft 8.
A soft 8 is what, like an 8.1 or like a 7.7 rounded up to an 8?
Like an 8.1.
Okay. Like a B- so far, basically. Oh yeah, you Canadians do weird grading.
Yeah, that's an A- in Canada.
That's cool. Good for you guys.
81% is an A-.
It's totally a B- in the US.
Yeah, well, here we are. Okay, what would you say?
Yeah, honestly, I would say somewhere between 7.5 and 8. Maybe like a 7.8.
Okay.
But with the potential of it moving up, it's just too impossible. I hold it to on such a high pedestal. I don't think it's realistic for them to be able to make. If they made it to my specifications and my preferences, my guess is that it would be extremely unpopular for everyone else. Like I think that what I want isn't practical for them to reproduce. So in a lot of ways, like me grading it, does it reflect, like, I'm very content. I'm happy that they've done a lot of the things that they've done, assuming it's going to get a ton of people interested in it.
Right. I shouldn't be surprised because we are so similar, but I am surprised that our ratings are so close.
What would you, after our discussion, what would
Mhm.
you think? What would you guess
Mhm.
I would think of it? Like, what would you guess that I would rate?
I was thinking you'd be closer to like a 6.5.
Was I that critical? Interesting.
I don't think you're like that critical. I was just,
Hmm.
yeah, I was thinking you would be closer to 6.5.
So it's for me, it's a huge deal that there were some moments that I was like, yes, this is awesome, and some
Yeah.
moments that I like really enjoyed, because I knew I was going to have some hurdles mentally trying to get over the continuity issues of the book versus the show. It just impossible to for me to not compare. Like, and why should I try not to compare? Like, I should. That's the whole reason I you know.
Yeah. So I still really enjoyed it. Like, don't get me, and I agree with you. I think it has a lot of potential. I'm curious what they're gonna do with the next. Only 5 more episodes.
I know.
Sad.
Yeah. So do you still think that the show is going to end at Eye of the World on
No.
episode 4?
No. No, I do not. We're barely into it.
I know.
Don't look so smug. We're barely into it. Rude.
I just didn't want you to have to see my smugness. I didn't want you to have to experience that.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it was cool. Good start. And I hope that I don't know, maybe we can make another reaction video for the next one. It'll be way shorter because it'll be only one episode to talk about.
Yeah, way shorter. It'll be fine.
Not that that's what she prefers, but
Carry on.
so much shorter. Okay, so shall we call it here?
Yeah, let's call it.
All right, guys. So thank you all so much for listening / watching, and may you always find water and shade and not throw them.